Get that fucking trash out of your life. You have legacies to build. We grew that business from 3.4 million to 17.1. Horsepower, not horse shit. You want to be the parent that's an ally. They don't need another fucking friend. Not everybody's cup of whiskey. Toughest advice for the toughest businessmen. Be relentless. Winners aren't losers. Look at that gorgeous sunrise behind me. That's my gift. That's my gift for getting up early and doing the 15,000 steps of road work. That's my gift for being out here on this 70-minute walk. I'll meet less than 20 people in this. Good morning. I'll meet less than 20 people who are out here maximizing this early morning time. Just an incredible blessing to be up early, to be up first, to hit the ground running. And that sunrise says it all. That's my thank you. That's my gift for my creator. Mike Babcock, the badass Mike Babcock. One of my all-time favorite NHL hockey coaches. The guy is a pure winner, a pure champion, a pure badass. And let me tell you why. Number one, Babcock suffers no fools. Babcock suffers no fools and has won at every level he has coached. From college, university. He won national titles in junior. He won 2 Olympic golds with Team Canada with the best players in the world. Mike Babcock was the head coach of the Canadian Olympic men's team with all the great players, Sidney Crosby, all the 2 back-to-back Olympic golds, and he won a Stanley Cup as a head coach. He was the head coach of the Anaheim Ducks. He was the coach of the historic Detroit Red Wings. And he finished his NHL career as the highest paid coach in NHL history, with probably the most demanding and important job in hockey as coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Babcock, and this is just a handful of years ago before he returned to his hometown and started coaching university again. He'll never coach in the NHL again. He's done. He has nothing left to prove. He's still making $5.8 million US per year being paid by the Toronto Maple Leafs to not coach the team. He signed a massive deal a handful of years ago. He coached in Toronto, I think, for about 3.5, maybe 4 years. He was fired, and he has been coaching for free at his old university in Western Canada, being paid by the Toronto Maple Leafs. If he coaches for free, if he coaches his old university for free and doesn't take a nickel as salary, the Toronto Maple Leafs are on the hook for the entire $5.8 million US a year. And he's done it. He stuck it to them for 3 years. Fire me, fuck you. I love it. Fire me, fuck you. You'll pay me. So he's been paid $5.8 million for the last 3 seasons to coach university college hockey in Western Canada. He's gone home to Saskatchewan, where he's from. Not hard to tell when you see a winner like that, with grit like he has, a work ethic like he has, stick-to-itness like he has, that he grew up in rural farmland in Canada. So Babcock checks all the boxes for MJM as far as one of the greatest coaches in NHL history. The reason I say that Babs will never coach again in the NHL is he's too tough and too demanding for today's cupcake athlete. He's far too tough, far too demanding, far too honest and candid for today's cupcake athlete. They wouldn't be able to deal with his honesty. They wouldn't be able to deal with his demands and his work ethic. They wouldn't be able to deal with his temperament. Too many cupcakes, snowflakes, they would melt under the pressure. And the players in Toronto did melt under the pressure. They complained and whined to their agents. They complained and whined to the general manager. They complained and they whined and made excuses to the president of the team. And after 4 years of not winning anything, then finally it cost Mike Babcock his job. But at the end, I've been fired as a pro hockey coach. After 2.5 years of bleeding for a team, I know what that feels like at a lower level. After the wounds heal, you're actually happy. Almost not happy isn't the word, but you're relieved that it's over, because you always see it coming. You always see it coming. In my case, the team was financially in trouble, so easy fix is to not pay the coach. So you can be fired in pro sports for multiple reasons. It can be your record, it can be complaints from sports agents, it can be a disconnect with the general manager, it can be a disconnect with the team president, it can be a disconnect with the fan base, it can be a lack of patience from the owner, multiple things. When you take on those jobs, you're hired to be fired. So Babcock is one of my favorite badass coaches, because the story I'll tell you today, I'm going to tell you 2 stories about Babs that's going to make him one of your new legends. So Babcock, is part of his job at the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're paying him $5.8 million, but what comes with hockey, it's the same in football and in baseball, is obligations come with the media and obligations come in the community that are part of the job that the average fan doesn't know about. Not only do you have to work as a coach for 10, 12, 14, 16 hours some days, but you also have obligations for public relations. And that's the stuff that drives the great coaches crazy. Well, we need you to go speak here. We need you to go here. We need you to go speak at this corporation. We need you to go and to this cocktail party. And it drives a good coach batty. It drives them crazy hanging around, these stuffed shirts or these bureaucrats or these CEOs or company presidents. They're basically your season ticket holders at the elite level. They're the companies that sponsor the team. They own the corporate boxes. They're the wealthiest business operators who sponsor the team. So Babcock had some of those responsibilities in Toronto. I mean, he was the type of guy who loved to volunteer, right? He would rather run a hockey practice for the children. He would rather go speak at a high school. He would rather go speak at a middle school. He was that kind of guy, serving and coaching. But as far as the corporate stuff, he despised that stuff, because he despised that type of person, right? The fake, the stuffed white shirt, the just the whole deal that came with it, right? The phoniness, the fakeness. But regardless, as a good soldier and as part of his job being paid $6 million a year, Babcock would take on these things. And a friend of mine was telling me about this big business conference that they had in Toronto. And they had about 100 of the top sponsors attend. So these are all businessmen and businesswomen, corporate as you can get. Just think of all the big companies, right? Everybody from Nike to Adidas to Nabisco to Molson to Labatt to Budweiser, just all the stuffed shirts. The bureaucrats, the accountants, the lawyers, all of the corporate guys and gals. And there's about 100 of them. My friend attended live. And it's in this conference. It's in a university classroom where the person, like Babcock stands down below, and you sit in those seats that elevate up. So just like a university classroom with the teacher down below, right? With the board behind them. So there's about 100 of these stuffed shirts, bureaucrats and corporate guys and gals in this. And Babcock is the guest speaker, or one of the guest speakers. He'd be the highlight guest speaker, right? The head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs will be speaking at this business convention in Toronto. So, it's a big deal. And I mean, clearly, anybody that's won as much as Mike Babcock has something incredibly valuable to say. But my buddy was invited to this, and he's sitting there, and everybody, there's 100 people. He's the only person who's not buried in his iPhone. And this is like 5 years ago. So here you have the winningest coach in recent history. You have a 2-time Olympic gold medalist head coach. You have a Stanley Cup winning head coach. You have a national championship head coach. You have the most well-respected and recognized leader of men in front of you, and you're buried in your iPhone. You're checking your golf game. You're seeing if you can, they're checking in with their mistress. They're checking in with their girlfriend. They're checking in about happy hour. None of it's business. None of it's business, right? 98% of cell phone use is personal. That's the data for the last 10 years. 98% of texting, emailing, applications, internet use on cell phones is personal. That leaves 2% for business. Don't be fooled. There's no business going on. It's just time theft, focus theft, and energy theft. And if you tolerate it in your personal life, if you tolerate it from your employees, if you haven't taken those fucking things away, then you deserve what you're gonna get. That is stealing. That is theft. That is theft of time. That is theft of energy. That is theft of productivity. And if you tolerate that in your business, well, losers aren't winners. So here's Babcock standing in front of these 100 people, right? And he's got the speech. He's going to tell them like it is. I mean, I would live to be there. So he starts to talk to them about winning in business, right? Winning in business is the same as winning is winning, right? Winners aren't losers. So he starts off, and he's telling a story about the Canadian men's Olympic team. He's talking about working with Sidney Crosby and the best players in the world, and how you get them to all work together when they're all superstars on their own team, how you get them to come together for the greater cause. He had 11 captains. He had 11 team captains on Team Canada. That's 11 players that were captain of their team at home. Think about those egos. Think about those self-images. Think about, that self-esteem, but you got to get it to work together. It's harder to coach talent sometimes, and it's harder to coach non-talent. Trust me, I know. Like, sometimes the hardest coaching job is when you have massive amounts of talent and massive amounts of leadership, because you got to put all the pieces together, all the egos, and you got to make it work for, the greater cause. So, good morning. So Babcock's up there, and he's about 30 seconds into this story. And he looks up, right? He's an eye contact guy of stuff. Great body language. The guy's fit as fuck. I mean, Babcock is famous for running inside the arena. He's always first at the rink, right? He's a 5 a.m.er. And after he's done a few things, he always runs after practice. So in the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, who's running, 5 miles a day in the rink around the top corridor? Mike Babcock. And you can tell he's a guy, in his mid to late 50s, and he's just built like a truck, like athletic, like slim, lean, and mean. And He's up there talking for about 30 seconds and then he just stops. He just stops. He's up there talking for 30 seconds and he notices that all the heads are down. 100 CEOs, presidents, COOs, paper pushers, corporate nerds, heads down on their phones. Babcock stops. Doesn't say a word. Doesn't say a word. Goofy's on his phone, you know, he's checking in with his mistress, he's doing his banking, he's watching videos, he's playing video games, he's checking what time the beer store's open till tonight, anything and everything but being present, right? He's a cell phone junkie, he can't help it. Losers aren't winners, he's a cell phone junkie. So he's, after about a minute of pure golden silence, heads start to pop up, right? Eyes start to pop up. People start to reconnect because silence is deadly. Silence is deadly, right? So like, people start to look up from their phones. So after a minute of deadly silence, Babcock's standing there staring at them at the front of the room, staring at them with the death stare that only Mike Babcock could have. Only a handful of coaches in every sport have the death stare. And then, once all the heads are up, once Goofy's off his iPhone, and once they're focused on him again, he says in a calm, poised, and confident voice, "I'll start when you start. I'll start when you're present. I'll start when you're all here." So, literally shaming men and women, professional men and women, into etiquette and manners. Nothing more unprofessional, nothing more rude, nothing more, disrespectful for somebody than phones. Whether it's a phone on a table at lunch or dinner. Oh, I flipped it over. Well, good for you, Goofy, you flipped it over. So, here he is volunteering his time, so to speak, and 99% of the room is not listening. They're somewhere else, right? They're somewhere else. They're frazzled, they're sprayed, they're depressed, they're anxious, they're all these things, and it's all because of manufactured mental illness through cell phones. So Babcock tunes him in right away, right? He's not going to put up with that horse shit from these people. Are you kidding me? He doesn't suffer fools. So just like a good parent, like a good mom or dad, just like a good grandparent, just like a good businessman or a leader or a sports coach, just like anybody that has any personal respect or pride, he just stopped and said, "I'll start when you're ready." And he wasn't in a situation where he took the phones away, although he probably would have. That's why Chris Rock locks everyone's cell phone away when you attend one of his shows. No more cell phones. You have to put them in the container at the door. It locks them away. You can't access them until the key is used when you leave. If you want to check your phone during Chris Rock's concert, you got to get your ass up. You got to go to the back. You got to get it unlocked in one of those things, greatest invention ever, and go outside and check your text, Goofy. Check your social media. So, just amazing. So, anyway, the tone was set by one of the greatest coaches in the world. And, he's not used to that either. He's like me. When he's talking to his hockey team, there's no cell phones in the locker room. When he's, running a video session, there's no cell phones in the video room. When he's on the ice running a practice, there's clearly no cell phones. So he wasn't really used to dealing with people that are distracted, that are frazzled, that are unfocused, and that are lost mentally. So good on Mike Babcock for tuning those guys up. Tomato can Olympics. Tuning those high-priced corporate tomato cans up and shaming them in front of their brothers and sisters. Great coaches are great shamers. Great parents are great shamers. Great coaches and consultants are great shamers. They're like, fuck, I'm gonna call it like I see it. Brene Brown, she talks about shame, but she also teaches the principle of clear is kind, unclear is unkind. Well, if you're clear and kind, which is one of my principles, clear is kind, unclear is unkind, well, some of that is shaming. In other words, you're setting it up and saying, you know what, this is not okay. What was Babcock's message to those corporate guys and gals? This is not okay. I won't tolerate it. So if you do the same thing with your children or your teenagers, your adult children, let's say you're at the dinner table, you're having lunch, and somebody has a phone at the table, all you have to do is Mike Babcock them. It's not okay to be on your phone at the dinner table. It's not okay to be on your phone at the breakfast table. It's not okay for you to be on your phone when we're doing family stuff. It's not okay to be on your phone in the classroom. It's not okay. That's just setting standards. And Babcock is the highest paid coach in the NHL not because he's the best coach, not because he's the best tactician, not because he has the best power play. He's not even probably the best teacher, but he's got the highest standards. Same with Nick Saban. Nick Saban doesn't have any special X and O's. His defense and offense is the same as everybody else's with a slight variation. Saban has the highest standards. Saban wins because of the highest standards. When Bill Belichick was winning Super Bowl after Super Bowl with Brady, that whole program is about high standards. It's about not tolerating anything that doesn't lead to a Super Bowl. And that's what Belichick, I have two guys that I know that played in New England. And you know what they said to me? One of the questions, you never read this in any book about Belichick. All the books are amazing. I've read them like 5 times each. War Games, Patriot Way, they're some of the best books I've ever read in my life. But these two guys were both linemen, in the trenches kind of guys. And they played for Belichick in the heyday with Brady for a couple of years, 3 years. And both of them said he has this question that he asks himself and the players. And it's this: does this help us get closer to winning a Super Bowl? That's the question Bill Belichick asks when an assistant coach comes in and says, hey, Bill, I think we need to do this. I think that we need to do this wrinkle. think we need to run the ball more. I think we need to use Randy Moss more. Belichick would always say, does this move us closer to our goal of winning the Super Bowl? That's it, that's all. That's how they acquired Randy Moss back in the day because, Randy had this reputation as this ultra talented receiver with all kinds of issues off the field. But a guy like Belichick can make that work. A culture, when you have a locker room with as much iron as the Patriots had, you can bring a guy in like that for a short term. You can bring a guy like that because there's enough iron in the locker room that he's going to conform. He's going to conform because he's surrounded by champions. And that's what happened. Randy Moss won his Super Bowl and he conformed because of the iron in that room. He's not the leader. He's not the clown. He's there to do a job, and Brady and those guys are the alphas. So Belichick would always ask that question. He'd always say, does this move us closer to a Super Bowl? They'd talk about it when they'd make a trade. They'd be, well, we're going to bring this guy in. Will that move us closer to a Super Bowl? And it's a simplistic question, but man, does that apply to world building? Every decision you make in your day, all you are is a decision-making machine. I am and you are. What do you do all day? All you do day after day is make decisions, little ones, big ones, medium-sized decisions that either move you closer to your goal or move you further away. That's exactly what it is. So every decision, you're a decision-making athlete. And this is why I encourage men to walk in solitude outside nature. I encourage men to write every day, to work on marketing. I encourage men to read real books every day. I encourage men to pray and have an attitude of gratitude. I encourage men to eat foods that make them younger and give them energy, to drink a gallon of water a day. I encourage them to date their wife and to invest time every day with their children. These things are so you can make better decisions. That's the thing, you're a decision-making machine. You're a decision-making athlete. And the better shape you're in physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, if you got your act together, your own personal act together, you're gonna make better calls. You're gonna make better decisions. You're gonna make better decisions when it comes to your wife, your children, your grandkids, your employees, your marketing, your money. You're gonna make better decisions. So that's a huge one that Belichick and nobody picked up on it, right? The authors of these books. Does this move me closer to a Super Bowl? Does this move us closer to a Super Bowl? And if the answer is no, it's a hard no. There's the real secret in that question. You need to be asking yourself every single day with every activity, okay, is this moving me closer or further away from my goal? And if it's not moving you closer to your mission, to your goal, to your dreams, then it's a hard no. It's a hard no. You know, sure, I'd love to do this. It sounds like fun, but no, because then I'd have to stop doing this. I get opportunities every day. Like I get between 5 and 10 business opportunities a day. Michael, I'd like you to look at this business proposal. Michael, I'd like to partner on this. Michael, here's a hockey team that's for sale you should consider. Michael, here's a real estate property for sale. Michael, here's an opportunity in Naples. Michael, here's an opportunity in Canada. Michael, I'd like you to come and speak to my group. Michael, I'd like you to do a full day consultation in my agency in Texas. No, 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 fuck no. And the reason for that is that all of those things, not any of them are going to move me closer to the world that I'm building. If they do, it's a hell yeah. Everything in my life is a hell yeah or a hell no. Everything in your life needs to be a hell yeah. If it's not a hell yeah, then it's a hell no. Instead of all this maybe, all this I'll think about it, does it move you closer to your goal? And if it doesn't, it's a hell no. Babcock, man, everything, hell yeah or hell no. Does it move us closer to winning a Stanley Cup? Does this decision move us closer to winning a Stanley Cup? If the answer is yes, it's a hell yes. But if the answer is no, it is a hard no. I'll just share one quick Babcock story here before I go. I can't stop telling stories about Mike Babcock. Man, oh man, he is a beauty. So, it's so funny now that he's retired out of the NHL. It's the same with Vince Lombardi. It's the same with Saban. It's the same with Belichick. It's the same with Bobby Knight. It's the same with any of these guys, Ditka, Buddy Ryan, any of the greats. Okay, any of the great coaches, the winners love them. They're hard asses, man. They're the hardest ass coaches there is. Scotty Bowman. But winners love them, right? So winners love Mike Babcock. And losers despise them. And they're proud about that. They like that, right? Jimmy Johnson. Winners love Jimmy in Dallas. Michael Irvin, Ennis Smith, Troy Aikman. The winners love Jimmy Johnson. And the tomato can losers hated him. And what did Jimmy do to take the Cowboys from the outhouse to the penthouse in 3 years? To win back-to-back Super Bowls after 4 years of taking over the worst franchise in the NFL? I got rid of all the losers. That was an off-the-cuff comment. That's not in a book. I got rid of all the lockers I got rid of all the losers in the locker room. Jimmy, how did you win back-to-back Super Bowls in Dallas? How the hell do you do that? I got rid of all the losers. He said, actually, he said further more about that. He said, I got rid of all the guys that didn't belong on the bus. You know, and that's what it's about in our lives too, is getting rid of all the losers. Michael, how are you making 7 figures in another company? You just started, how are you doing that again? Hey, I get rid of all the losers in my life. I get rid of you, it never ends. And I answer that question every day, 200 times. Does this activity move me closer to my goals? Does this decision make me move me closer to my goals? Hey, does walking and shooting a video move me closer to my goals? That's a hell yeah, it does. It does. Does drinking a gallon of water a day move me closer to my goals? Hell yeah. Does reading for an hour and studying great books, marketing, advertising, copywriting? Hell yeah. Does copywriting for an hour every day, 2 hours, 3 hours, does that move you closer to your goals, Michael? Hell yeah. Does dating your wife, Krista, does that move you closer to your goals? Hell yeah. Does, doing something with my daughter, driving her here, driving her there, rollerblading, coaching her in tennis, coaching her in hockey, coaching her in skating, taking her to math practice, does that move you closer to your personal and professional goals? Hell yeah. So last Babcock story before I go. Here's a guy that is a massive giver of energy. There's 2 types of people in the world. There's givers and takers. Givers of energy and takers of energy. And you know the type. You know the black clouds in your life. And you know the people that just fill a room that you want to spend time with. That you leave, when you stop talking to them, you're like, man, that was amazing. I need to spend more time. They leave you in a better state than they found you. They give you energy. So there's givers and there's takers of energy, right? So Babcock, like all great coaches, is a giver of energy. He's an imposing guy, and if he walks in a room, he really fills that room, right? But what does he fill it with? Good morning. And he fills it with this energy, right? Like he fills the door. He's a big physical guy, and he's got he's got the big personality. He's a winner, right? So it's interesting because he was talking about this one time in GQ, where they said, what's life like in Toronto after being in Anaheim and Detroit? What's it like being in the hockey hotbed of the world? Like the center of the hockey universe is Toronto. This is like coaching or managing the Yankees in New York. It's like being the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, it's the biggest job in hockey, and it's the most exposure. He can't go anywhere without people talking to him about hockey. There's nowhere he can go. And there's 11 million people in Toronto. Toronto is like the 4th largest city in North America. Yes, the GTA, the Great Toronto Area, the greater GTA area, 11 million people. So it's a big deal. So they asked Babcock, what's this like? You're living in Toronto with your wife, lived in a condo 5 minutes from the arena. So his kids are raised, they're in college now doing their own thing. So that's when he decided to move from Detroit to Toronto, once his kids were doing their own thing in university and college. So they asked him, he says, something that I do every day? He goes, I make sure I give energy. I give positive energy. Can you imagine somebody saying this in an interview? He says, what I do is every morning, 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning when I'm heading to work, I always drive my half-ton truck. Think about that for a second. Good morning. Here's a guy making $6 million US a year. He's the highest paid coach in hockey, and he's driving a half-ton truck, and not even a brand new half-ton truck. That's all you need to know about Mike Babcock. blue collar, rural, salt of the earth work ethic. So he drives this half-ton truck around Toronto. You know, he's surrounded by Ferraris and Beamers and Mercedes, not Babcock, half-ton truck. His players are all driving these supercars, not Babcock, half-ton truck. So he drives into Tim Hortons every day, he says in this story, to get his coffee. So he heads into Tim Hortons, is like Dunkin' Donuts, right? So he heads in every morning at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning on his way to the rink to work, to do video, to study, whatever he does, to work out. Good morning. And he goes, I refuse to use drive-throughs. I refuse to use restaurant drive-thrus. Everybody, you know, they get their coffee, they go through the drive-thru, they never talk to anybody, they don't see anybody. Lazy, right? Disconnect. I used to be like that. He says, I refuse to use drive-thrus. So he says, when I drive into Tim Hortons every morning at 5:30 in the morning, he says, I always park my truck and I get out and I go in the coffee shop. And the reporter's like, what? And he's like, you're Mike Babcock. What a pain in the ass. He goes, oh no. He says, I have to give energy. I have to give positive energy to those people. And it's like, well, you're the coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. You're going to be coaching all day, the best athletes in the sport. No. He says, I need to talk to regular people. I need to talk to hardworking, blue-collar people that get up and make the donuts and make the coffee. He goes, I need that connection every day. So he goes, I get out of my vehicle. He says, I refuse to use drive-thrus. And I've shared this concept with my Mastermind members. It's fascinating. He goes, I walk in, I order my coffee, I hold the door for some people, I smile, I say good morning, I call the people that get my coffee by their first name. It's Mike fucking Babcock at the till. Are you kidding me? In Toronto, that's like Jimmy Johnson back in the day standing at the till. That's like Nick Saban, who I also hear does this, pumps his own gas, does his own thing, in Alabama. So it's just a mindset that you get designed as a youngster by your parents. But here he is. He's like, yeah, I want to get out and give energy. So I smile at people. I hold the door. I call them by their first name. I give positive energy. And then he says, I take my coffee and I head to work. I have to do that every day. And I'm like, man, that's big. That's top 1% of 1%. He's thinking about other people on the way to work. And they said, don't people bother you? Don't people ask you for autographs and photos and want to talk about the team? And you got people that are critics. He's like, oh, I don't care about that. He goes, I love that. He goes, I don't mind taking pictures. I don't mind any of that stuff. He goes, I love it. I'll give autographs. He goes, I get in my truck with my coffee. And he said, I head to the rink. Man, oh man, you can't put a price on that. You can't put a price on that. Like that's something there. I want to give energy, he said. I want to give energy to people that are out there working every day. And ever since I've heard that story, I read that story, I have never, ever, ever used a drive-through, ever. And I just get my ass out. It wasn't easy at the first. And now when I get my coffee every day at Dunkin' Donuts, I go in, I hold the door, I say good morning to the people that are in there, I talk to people. This was difficult for me at the start. I was used to working at home. I'm an introvert. I like to be by myself, working, and it was so good for me to push myself out. Good morning, out of that box that I was in. And it's only a few minutes, but man, like I've met the nicest people. I've met people that I could hire as employees. I've met great people that could be, I could hire in an instant to work because they've been on a job interview for basically 4 months now. But just this giving energy. So I walk into Dunkin's now and the girl has my coffee. I don't have to, has it ready. There could be a lineup of 15 people and she's got it ready. And I haven't done anything special. Like I haven't done anything except for 4 months. I've walked in there with a massive smile on my face. I've walked in there whistling like I do And I've opened the door, I've held the door, I've said good morning to people, and I've called the staff by their first names and been very gracious in terms of good morning, thank yous. And the next thing you know, they treat me like I'm a VIP. And they don't know me from Adam. They don't know who I am or what I do or where I'm from. They don't know anything about me. But they treat me like royalty because I give them respect and positive energy. And I'll walk up there and you can tell they're having a hard day. I mean, they've been up since 4 a.m. making coffee and donuts, and it's the same drudgery day after day. We all know what that's like. We've all had jobs like that. I know I've had lots of jobs like that where it's just, holy, what a grind. And then somebody like Mike Babcock comes up, or you, and just has this incredible high energy, giving energy, and you literally give the person positive energy. You know how a time vampire or an energy vampire leaves you feeling drained? It's like the vampire sucked on your neck and just drained all of your energy and life force out, like a black cloud does, like a toxic person does. Well, Mike Babcock is the opposite. He gives these people a blood transfusion. I'm not kidding. And he's larger than life, right? He gives them a blood transfusion. He's polite. He's got great etiquette. He smiles, eye contact. He's not on his dumb phone. He holds doors. He opens doors. He calls people by their first name. He's the opposite. He's the opposite of an energy vampire. He's the badass opposite of a dark cloud. Like he said, he goes, I want to give energy. He goes, I want to give energy to these people. And man, talk about badass parenting. So in your day, when you're making your decisions, do you make decisions based on, does this move me closer to my Super Bowl life? Does this move me closer to my World Series life? Does this move me closer to my Stanley Cup championship world that I want to build? And secondly, are you a giver of energy or are you a taker? Do people feel better after they've talked to you during the day, or do they feel worse? Do they feel better or worse when they read your email, they watch your video, they read your newsletter, they talk to you on the phone, they meet you at the coffee shop, whatever it is, they deal with you at a school? Do people feel better or worse? Do people feel better or worse after they've dealt with you? Those are the two things for today. And those two Babcock stories, man, he just wouldn't tolerate it. He wouldn't tolerate those fucking zombies sitting there. He didn't give a shit. Those guys are fucking slaves anyways, corporate slaves. And I don't give a shit whether they're making 500 grand a year. They're all bootlickers. They're all bootlickers. Those banks and institutions and law firms, they own their ass. I don't care if you're the vice president. They own your ass 24 hours a day. I'd rather not make any money than not run my own show. I'd rather be broke. I'd rather be broke than not run my own small business. I'm a free man. I'm like you. I have my own personal sovereignty. I have my own personal dignity. Those corporate bootlickers, give me a break. They walk around with their expenses. They don't even know a hockey puck from a football. They're there because the ticket's paid for and they're not even there. And they own them. Those guys have no time. They have no time for their wife. They have no time for their marriage. They have no time for their children. And it's all one big show. Those guys wear a mask like nobody else. Corporate bootlickers wear a mask like nobody else. And guys like Babcock, who no matter how much they make, no matter how much success they have, they're badasses. They're badasses. He lives life and does business on his own terms. He did it. He's going to look back in his career and he's going to be like Frank Sinatra, my way, my way. And he has disdain for those corporate stuff shirts, those egg-headed corporate shirts. He's just like, put your phone down, Goofy. I'll start when you're ready. Tomato can Olympics. I love it. He won't tolerate that shit from a kid making 12 million. He sure as hell ain't gonna tolerate it from some sap, corporate sap bootlicker making 250 grand looking busy on his phone. Those people are miserable. Just remember that. Don't fall for it. Just miserable. Miserable in their homes, miserable in their marriages, miserable relationship with their children, lousy life. Man, be a renegade maverick entrepreneur. Teach your kids to build their own world through entrepreneurship. Teach your grandkids to be entrepreneurs. That is the ticket to freedom, autonomy, and personal sovereignty. The doors to my world building mastermind are open for a handful of days, and then I'm closing them again. If you want to get in to my world building mastermind, you got to do it now. You need to apply at badassworldbuilders.com. The link is below. And I've got room for 5 more elite men. You got to get around elite men. You got to Mike Babcock it. You got to get around other elite husbands, fathers, entrepreneurs, or you're never, ever going to take your life to the next level. If you're going to be a decision-making machine, if you're going to make decisions that move you closer to your goals every day, then man, you got to get around other elite brothers. So join my tribe at badassworldbuilders.com. You can pay the $9,997 one time, but I also am now for the first time offering monthly. $997 a month to get around some of the best top 5% guys you could ever imagine. Marketers, advertisers, copywriters, entrepreneurs, professional people, coaches, consultants, you name it, they're all in there. Retail, get around other elite men. Badassworldbuilders.com, as easy as $997 per month. Your place at the table awaits if you qualify. You need to fill in the application at badassworldbuilders.com, and I'll get back to you within 72 hours, yay or nay. Maybe I'm the coach for you, maybe I'm not. Maybe Mike Babcock and MJM are not for you, that's fine. 2 out of 3 applications I deny because it's not a good fit, and there's never any hard feelings, never any bad feelings. You apply, you either get in or you don't. And one last thing is I shoot these videos every day, 365. And I shoot and I send these emails every day, 365. And I don't ask for one thing. I don't give a shit whether you buy anything from me. Over the next 10 years, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you don't buy a book. I don't care if you don't buy a newsletter. I don't care if you don't buy a telegram. I don't care if you join one of my masterminds. I do not care. It's not going to change my world one iota. But here's the thing, okay? Pay it forward. Pay it fucking forward. Okay, everything I do here is free for you. If you're not a client of mine, I'm shooting these videos out of the kindness of my heart for free. If you become a client, that's awesome. But if you don't become a client, make sure that you pay the tax. You pay the tax and you pay it forward. In other words, answer this question. Who needs to hear this message? Who needs to hear today's message? And then share this message with that person. Okay, send them the link from YouTube, send them the email, tell them to subscribe to my daily videos. That's all you have to do. It's free, but pay it forward. Don't be a taker, be a giver. What did Babcock do? He's a giver. He gives energy to the people at Tim Hortons. He gives energy to the people in the community. Be a giver. I'm not asking you to spend your money. I'm not asking you to spend your money. I'll come out here every day in the dark and I'll serve you. I'll serve you. But the tax is that you pay it forward. Subscribe to my channel, make a comment, but most importantly, who else needs to hear this message? Who else needs to hear these messages every day? There's got to be. Is it your teenagers? Is it your adult children? Is it your spouse? Is it your employees? Is it your golf? Who needs to hear these messages every day? Who needs to hear from the good news merchant? And share it with them and get them to subscribe. That's all I ask. But pay the tax every day. Don't be a taker. Don't be a tomato can. Don't be a shit weasel. Okay, and just take and hoard. That's scarcity. That's losing. Abundant mentality, share. Man, I just saw this great video. I watch Michael's videos every day. Here's how you can watch them for free. It's free. Be a kid, be a giver. Be a giver. Attitude of gratitude. The key to living is what? Giving. So pay the tax, pay the fee, and the fee is giving. I don't care about money. I don't care about your money, but pay the fee. Who else needs to see these videos? and make sure you share them, pass them on, and be a giver. Like Mike Babcock said, I want to give positive energy every day. I want to give positive energy every day. Be a giver, not a taker. That's it. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that'll change yours. Be relentless.